Hi, and welcome to Birth Through the Veil. I'm Melissa Kamrudin, and in this week's episode, Kroschinsky is joining me for a frank chat on birth and midwifery. Kaley is a mom of two, a published author, a board-certified lactation consultant, former registered midwife in British Columbia, and forever midwife. I think we get into all the juicy topics you might hope for. Hey, Kaley.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. I'm so glad you're here to chat.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
It's been a really long time, actually. I just realized that since we actually saw each other, like, years? 7?
It's been years. Yeah.
It has. Yeah. Last time, well, I used to work for you at the
Yes.
midwifery clinic in Kelowna.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like we each have at least one more child. Actually, you have 2 more children.
Yeah.
Plus, since I saw you last. And I have one more child since I saw you last. So yeah.
I've never met that child. Your first one was, well, like a little tiny breastfeeding baby.
Exactly.
I guess, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Babies don't keep. Hey?
No.
Like he's still
No. Now he's
tiny
9. I can only imagine how big your oldest is. I remember having crepes with him at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
He was so cute.
He was so cute. He's still pretty cute, but now he's like 6'3". Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Makes sense.
It makes me appreciate the little moments with the little babies, like having this big baby, and then, like the hard moments with toddlers and babies. And you're like, oh, this is just for a second. It's going to pass. Their problems are so easily solved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then they're going to grow up. So helps me enjoy it all a lot more. Yeah. So we started chatting a little bit before we recorded about your journey into midwifery. So let's talk about that. Tell me about like how you got started in the birth world.
Yeah. Well, it's been 20 years now since I did my doula training 20 years ago, so in 2004. And actually, I was joking with someone recently about how this really dated me. I was sharing that I had a pager when I first became a doula, and I would, when my pager would go off, like if I was away from home, I would have to go find a payphone because I didn't even have a cell phone yet. So it was like this other era.
Yeah, 2004. I would have been the same.
It was, it was easy to have boundaries at that time also.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I was sharing that with a doula who had on her watch, like these texts coming in from her clients while she was eating dinner. Yeah. And she was just saying like, oh, like it's hard to turn that off. And I'm like, yeah, with a pager and a payphone, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The technology piece requires us to put in a lot of artificial boundaries for ourselves. And I think of it with my teenager too, right? Like that they're just starting life with these like no boundaries people have access to all the time. There's constant like dopamine hit scrolling available to you at any moment. Like it's a lot. It's a lot for me to manage as someone who's nearly 40 and didn't grow up with it, like got it in like 2007. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and you can look back, like even within, my adult life, just how much things have progressed in that way. And so, so it was really, I did my doula training, like I was in my early 20s. So I feel like I was a baby still myself, but I had grown up with a mom who was a sex ed teacher. And so I was just incredibly comfortable with the human body and reproduction. And I started at UVic in the women's studies department and learned about midwifery and just really fell in love with it. But just being the young age that I was, I thought, well, I'll do my doula training first. And I was actually a yogi, and I started teaching prenatal. I got a job teaching prenatal yoga. It just kind of fell in my lap. And I just I found it was like the universe was kind of ushering me along. Like I had a lot of doula clients that came my way really quickly. I had a lot of prenatal yoga, and it was just sort of this like the universe was saying yes to me. And so I started midwifery school at the Seattle Midwifery School in the mid 2000s, and then I finished in 2011. And then I had to go through a period of like international equivalency exams and stuff like that, because I was considered an internationally trained midwife, even though I was from here and had done practicums here. So it was kind of funny, but I learned a lot, and it was really, really valuable. I'm so grateful that I did the midwifery training that I did, because it was very grassroots and very anchored in feminism and this more grassroots movement of midwifery that was like in the same era of Ina May Gaskin. Like the women who had founded the Seattle Midwifery School were, you know, contemporaries of Ina May Gaskin, and were really like empowered and a part of that movement. And so they were my teachers and they were my preceptors, and I'm so grateful that I you know, was able to train in that kind of style of midwifery. And in Seattle, it was all out of hospital births. So it was birth center and home birth exclusively. But then I did some hospital birth practicums here in Canada. And then obviously that was a big part of my like equivalency work when I came to Canada. So so I finished all of that in 2011 and started practicing. And Anne-Marie and I had already started up Malachite Midwives here in Kelowna. So I had jumped into business before I had even finished my registration, which was interesting. I learned a lot the hard way by doing it that way. But I was young and full of energy and ready to take it all on. So yeah, it was a good time. And those early years of having a midwifery practice here in Kelowna and, you know, just being young and childless was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I feel like we really helped to hold space for an incredible birth community here in Kelowna for a while. You know, and it was neat to see how many people, like how much the home birth rate grew, just having a collection of midwives or a collective of midwives that were really home birth oriented and comfortable. And, you know, that the fact that that was sort of our focus, I feel like really helped to increase the home birth rate in our practice. So it was a good time.
Yeah, Malachite is definitely iconic in Kelowna. If you've spent
it's no
any
longer
time
though. Did you know that it closed?
I do. I know.
Yeah,
that's so sad. And I mean, midwifery options are quite limited most places now. Like I live in an area where I'm lucky. There's a lot of. I mean, I live in Vancouver, right? So there's like a lot of midwifery options, but I don't think anywhere else it's not the case. And in Kelowna now, it's actually hard to have a home birth if you want a registered midwife in attendance. There aren't very many. I think there might be one group supporting it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's one practice that.
But I mean, that's like, I don't think that's like two midwives. Home birth. Like that's going to be
like 2 to 4 midwives, depending on the moment, I think. But yeah, so that's something that's been pretty heartbreaking for me to see that change. And like I left Malachite that I think the same year you did in 2018. I got pregnant and developed hyperemesis really quickly. But I had also actually had a miscarriage before that, like in early 2018. And as you probably remember, I was a bit of a shell of myself at that time. I feel like after 8 years of being a business owner and a registered midwife and trying to be the best mama that I could, I was extremely burnt out. So yeah, I was not in a very good place when I had a miscarriage, and I feel like that was the straw that broke my back. And so I then got pregnant and had really severe hyperemesis, and it was just like my body was like, okay, you need to leave. You need to leave your business and focus on your family for a little while. So,
what do you think is contributing to that? Like the midwife burnout rate's really high. Like even if midwives still practicing, I'd say a lot of them are really, really burnt out.
absolutely.
So it's a problem. It's not like it's just happening to a couple people. It's happening to most, if not all, midwives that are working. Like, why? It's, you think of like going into birth work. It's so beautiful. It's magical. Like what's happening
Absolutely.
in registered midwifery?
So, in general, I'll share that there was a study done a few years ago by, I'm not sure if it was the Canadian Association of Midwives, but they were looking at burnout rates in BC specifically because they're much higher than in Alberta. And in Alberta, midwives are compensated much more fairly. They receive, I'm not sure what it is now, because as a result of this study, they started compensating midwives in BC more, just realizing that the lower pay was contributing to burnout. And I think part of it is just that the midwives felt like they had to kind of, like, I tried to work part-time, and it was like you really, by the time you paid for all of your overhead and all of the different pieces to practice, you were making very little money as a part-time midwife. So it was like you had to take on this full-time caseload despite your family, despite, whatever was happening in your life, just in order to make a good income. And so I feel like that's a factor, and they're looking at that and working on that. But for me, another big factor was that I had been bullied really badly in the hospital, and I was
that wasn't just you. That's like a culture.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it wasn't just me. And so just this is such a cliche word now, but the toxic work environment that I was a part of, and being on call, like it's tough working for 24 to 36 hours straight at times when you're at a birth or back-to-back births, and like just the physical toll that takes on the body is really high. And then I feel like midwives under the current model of practice aren't able to recover their bodies in the way that they need. And the more that I learn about women's health, as I now I'm in my early 40s now, and I'm, dabbling more in the information around perimenopause, and just realizing that actually our stress tolerance goes down as we age. So I do wonder if that's a factor, just this very patriarchal, masculine world that we live in. And the model of midwifery that was created in BC, I feel like is a more masculine model of working. And it's obviously not very sustainable. So
what do you think would make it, like if you were looking at possible changes to implement, like what would make it more woman-centered?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I do think they're trying to work on some of these things. Like when I went off for my two children, like when I was going on maternity leave twice, I didn't receive maternity leave coverage, whereas I feel like there's more options now for maternity leave coverage. They're working more on like a healthcare benefits plan. That was just kind of in the early stages when I was phasing out. They are, but in general, like, I think just more opportunities to share call, to tag team. I did work for a little while in a model where we would tag each other off at 12 hours, or we would at least check in with each other at 12 hours and say, like, and any normal human at 12 hours of working straight, like, you're going to be exhausted, right? So it seems a little bit crazy that midwives are expected to, be working marathon type hours, but a lot of people in healthcare just it's kind of like the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But that 12-hour model, I feel like was a lot more reasonable. And for my family too, to know that I'm going to be gone for 12 hours maximum, as opposed to maybe like 2 or 3 days that some births take. And also like when you work in a way that you want to honor the process of birth, you don't want to rush it. You don't want to interfere based on your own schedule. It is tough, and I can see how the interventions start rolling in to support, like that's where people are reaching for support, is like, okay, well, this is taking too long, so we need to intervene because I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I feel like that piece, that's really a factor. So just, more opportunities, I think more midwives in general would be really supportive, just to have, a good call group that you could support each other well, or, take your children's birthdays off.
Yeah. I hear that being a problem, like from all sides, right? That like, women can't get midwives when they want them. Like you have to actually be quite privileged to get a midwife, in the way that you're, your cycle really well. It's regular, right when you're pregnant, and you call that midwife right away. So if you're like young, or in a challenging life place, or you have variable cycles, you're actually probably not going to get a midwife, right? If you don't know right away. If you're not lucky enough to know about midwives, if you don't know these facts and know you have to register right away, you're not going to get one.
Or even, I remember it was like the people who got pregnant in the first half of the month.
Yeah.
Because remember that when we were
and then we had to be like,
and then
nobody,
we had to break it
wait.
up.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, the 1st to the 15th, and then the 15th to the 30th, because otherwise all our due dates would be stacked in the very beginning of the month, because we would fill up we would have 8 to 10 women call by like the 10th. For that month. And then
because when I was working there was always a wait list. And and I remember saying, like, why is it all like white women in their mid-late 30s? Like, why is that the only people coming into care? And so I was talking about it with one of the midwives. We're like, this is why, though, because these women they're planning their pregnancies. They're in a stage in their life where they know their cycle, and like they were expecting this to happen. And so then the younger people, or minorities, or like, people who have just moved here, who don't know the system, they're too late. They come in, they're calling it like even like 9 weeks pregnant. You're like, oh, that's way too late. Like, no way. Yeah. So I hear it from that side. And then also from midwives trying to staff their clinics, trying to cover locums, trying to, it's just not.
Well, and I mean, it must be worse than ever. Like, I did plan to come back. Like, I left in 2018 when I was pregnant, and knew like, okay, it's time to just spend some years focusing on my family. But I love midwifery. Like, it's who I am. Like, it's in my blood. I am just so passionate about everything around like reproduction and women's health and breastfeeding and the childbearing year. Like, it's everything to me. And so it's been really tough, but I wasn't able to come back because of the vaccine mandates. So that prevented me for years from even being able to think about being able to step back into registered midwifery. And so I know that was the case. I don't know the statistics around how many midwives left, but there must have been in a small profession that already is under strain and doesn't have enough people, to lose even 10 or 20 midwives, I'm sure, has really affected the profession. And so, and then it just in the healthcare system in general, like the mandates have really stressed the healthcare system that was already under so much stress. So,
and really for like no science backing, no backing from science as to why that would be. No health and safety reasons have turned up for that, right? The evidence has not been there. Yeah, no. That's been disappointing all around. And yeah, on an already strapped system, I definitely know of midwives who left, and midwives who wouldn't have made that personal life choice, who weren't really interested in that particular pharmaceutical, and felt like
Yeah.
you got to feed your family. What are you going to do? Like at this point where you've gone through all the education, and in BC, the only way to utilize that education is through the college. You must register,
Exactly.
right? Like there's no other path to supporting people in birth in a midwifery capacity, according to the college.
I'll tell you a story though. I did in that period of time that because I had a bit of an interesting almost buffer in that way, where I wasn't right in the middle of the profession at the time that the lockdowns happened, and at the time that the mandates rolled in. Like, I was on maternity leave already, and I had these little kids at home, and was just trying to get by with trying to, do everything for them, with no support and no village at the time, like we all were. It was a crazy period of time. But I was like, a lot of people reached out to me in that time. So a lot of people had known about me because I had been a midwife in the community for a long time. And I was asked probably once a month or more for the better part of 2 years to attend people's births out of the system. And I mostly said no, because of where I was at with my family. I just was like, I can't do this feasibly. It made the choice easier that way, but it was hard on my heart because I really wanted to support mamas, and I had 2 home births myself, and they were pretty straightforward home births. I loved having my midwives and my doula present, but I'm really supportive of physiologic birth. And I could see where these moms were coming from, a lot of them, where they were feeling really disenchanted with the healthcare system, let's say, and they were just wanting to take their births into their own hands. And I can really respect that. But yes. I also just felt really vulnerable in that position, and then, like I said, with my family being where it was at, it just wasn't really a possibility. But I did attend a birth for a friend of mine who didn't access any prenatal care, and who was going to have her birth at home by herself, whether I was there or not. And so I went. She invited me to come, and so I said, sure, I'll come and just, I saw it as harm reduction in a way, just come and sit in the corner and be a presence. And as it happens, of course, birth gets crazy sometimes, and she was amazing, absolute birthing goddess. It was so beautiful to be a part of it. But after the birth, she had some complications that I felt risky enough that I recommended they go into the hospital to just get some more care and support and medication. And when they went to the hospital, the nurses got word that they were at home with an unregistered midwife. And let me tell you, that was a scary time. That was an awful time for me. I felt absolutely witch hunted because I was receiving messages from some of my old colleagues, like really just questioning what I was doing, and if I was, putting myself out there as like a free birth attendant, and it was like, no, I'm not. Like, I was just trying to support this mama who would have done it whether I was there or not, and like I said, it was just, in my mind, harm reduction and supporting the birthing world. And it just happened that it was the right time in my life that I could make it happen. But but yeah, it was a bit of a cautionary tale too going forward. It was like, okay, like this isn't, I felt at that time, so that was over 2 years ago, and I felt at that time that there was this almost like wanting to create a martyr around people who are attending births outside the system. And I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, I'm scared that I'm going to become that martyr. And I'm not like, I don't have the energy for that in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Right now, where I'm at, And
Yeah.
so, but then just seeing what's happened with Gloria LeMay and some of the other doulas who support free birth, I'm not surprised, to be honest, that they're being witch hunted the way they are. I'm sick about it, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. The pandemic, I feel, it was like a big awakening in a lot of ways for a lot of people. And in terms of birth, I think it either made people like, I don't want to be in a place with all these sick people, right? Which some like in our culture, we don't think about that so much. It's just like birth happens in a hospital for most people if you haven't delved any deeper into it. But it really made people think like, but they're telling us everybody's dying there. So I don't want to bring my fresh human in there. And then it also, in a lot of communities, the midwives wouldn't go to homes anymore. So then you had no home birth options. So like this I see as a big part of the rise of free birth. And then to see the college and midwives, sometimes midwives, come down on people who are supporting women's choice. So if it's a woman's choice, like an adult woman of clear and sound mind to birth by herself in her home or with whoever she chooses to bring her tea and support her in whatever way, I think she should be able to make that choice without fear that her friends are going to be put in prison
100%.
or charged or
100%.
receive letters from the college, cease and desist letters from the college, as though the college owns birth support above women's choice.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that here in BC, the legal system owns the title midwife. And so that's where, I mean, I still call myself a midwife and I still have it on my business card. I don't have registered midwife, but I have midwife, and I have come under some scrutiny for it. But because I trained in the US as a midwife, I do have some title there. So I figure, well, I can call myself a midwife still. And it, like I said, it's just who I am through and through. So, but that is the piece that makes the college be able to go after others who are acting.
It's even, like it's even beyond that, because I think most birth workers are pretty careful. Like even birth workers who really probably practice as traditional midwives, they don't call themselves midwives. Like most of them are pretty careful not to use that term.
Yeah.
That's like a right away one that's going to get you a letter and who knows what else. So there's other words like you support birth, you're a birth attendant, you are, like whatever it is, and then offer description to people when they hire you. Part of what made me start this podcast was the letters from the college that went out last fall to quite a few birth workers that I know. And also the press releases that went out with them through CBC and through all the news outlets, saying that these women were impersonating midwives and lying to the public. And that's just so insane. That's so insane, because when you hire a birth keeper, you're spending thousands of dollars. It's not an accident. You're not accidentally paying these people. We all know that healthcare is covered in Canada. And so when you pay someone, you're actually hiring them for a different thing. You're paying for a service that isn't available in the system. And I just felt like the information needs to be out there for people, because it sounds awful. When you read that article on its face, it's like, who are these crazy women pretending to be someone they're not and endangering the lives of women and children? And that's not the true story of it. Yeah.
No, but no, it's really just all about choice in my mind. It's really about women being able to make the choices for their body that feel right. And really believe that women are so intuitive when they're pregnant, when they are expecting babies. Like, their intuition is just off the charts. And I've said to moms so many times, like, this isn't the choice that I would make, but I trust your intuition. Like, I can see that you're really clear right now, and I trust your intuition. And I do trust the intuition of moms who are making the choice to birth outside the system right now, because I feel like they're holding a torch for the ancient way of doing things that our bodies know how to do. And to have an undisturbed home birth, which is what I had the privilege of having with my 2 children, like, it just sets a trajectory, and not everybody gets to have this, but when you do, like, it sets the trajectory of your motherhood experience just in such a beautiful way. Like, I feel like, the potential for, your home to be flooded with oxytocin, and for your baby to come into this space of just such rich oxytocin, like, it sets up your breastfeeding experience in a different way. And so I feel like some people would ask why, and I almost, as when I was an early registered midwife, I almost would ask why, because Gloria was around back then too. I knew about Gloria, when I was an early registered midwife back in 2011, and I sort of wondered why. Like, why would you feel the need to support people outside the system, and the system's pretty good, like, we support moms to have pretty physiological births, and we really honor choice. But as the years went on, I noticed more and more how the different ways that I was controlled and prevented from really truly honoring choices that weren't in alignment with the medical system's kind of just mainstream way of doing things. So, and I felt over time too that moms were being more and more pushed to make choices that were, for example, the diabetes test. In my early years, I feel like very few of my midwifery clients took the diabetes test, to be honest. And the OBs just sort of expected that. And they were like, oh, you crazy midwives. And it was, like, oh, a midwifery client and whatever, that's fine. And then I felt like more and more over time, as the older OBs retired and these newer OBs came in that were, I don't know what the vibe was, but they were more critical of the care providers. It was like it was our fault that moms weren't taking the diabetes test. It was like, well, you must not be explaining it properly, or you must not be, like, just putting enough pressure on her, kind of thing, to do this test. And it's like, well, it's not about putting pressure on people. It's about explaining the information and then honoring their choices. So, yeah. I felt that the midwifery model, in the early years, there was more midwives who had been, like, grandmothered in by the system, is what it was called, where they had been practicing midwifery outside of the system for many years, and they were practicing exclusively out of hospital birth. And then midwifery became a part of the system in 1998. And there was this program for the midwives who were outside of the system to do a program and then be able to be grandmothered in and become registered midwives. So a lot of the midwives at the time were these very grassroots midwives. So it was just, it was a different thing. It was like a different demographic of midwives. And then now,
even the next generation, right? Because, like, probably midwives around your time were trained by those grandmother midwives.
Exactly.
But now that's gone. That lineage piece is out.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, that's also where I see, where in the US, there's still more of the kind of grandmother type midwives around. And yeah, here in BC, it's not so much the case anymore.
Yeah, you were talking about the different model in Washington where you trained, like where there's availability.
Yeah. So I did midwifery. I trained as a midwife in Seattle. And there are nurse midwives, certified nurse midwives there, who work exclusively in the hospital for the most part. And then there are the licensed midwives who are paying for a license and for insurance, basically. So they're the midwives that work primarily out of birth centers or people's homes, but they don't do hospital birth. And then there's the, I want to say certified practicing midwives, is that what it stands for? Who are not insured. And they practice midwifery in a way that, because insurance sort of dictates what midwives can and can't do to some degree in the US, the midwives who are not accessing insurance can offer birth to like VBAC moms, for example. So insurance prevents midwives in the US or in Washington from attending VBAC. Or they used to anyways. Hopefully that's changed, but probably not. They also, and you were talking about like a twin home birth, like insurance, that a midwife that would attend a birth like that probably wouldn't be insured. But there's, it's a different model in that there's really space for everybody at the table in that model of midwifery in Washington. Like at the midwifery conferences, like all of those midwives come and learn together, and it's more just accepting of choice and the fact that they're all kind of servicing a bit of a different demographic. And here, it's illegal. It's like you're a registered midwife or you're not allowed to practice.
Yeah, so it's all really, you open yourself up to huge liability even by just being in the presence of birth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a registered professional there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I really felt that, like, after this experience of, just trying to support a friend and try to make sure things were safe for her, I felt like I never thought I would be jealous of the American system, but here I am wishing that things were more similar here, or just more accepted here the way they are in the US or in Washington. And I should be clear, like, it's state by state. Every state has different regulations and laws around midwifery.
Yeah, I wish it was too. Want to be very supportive of people's choice, which is sort of the framework that midwifery is built on in BC, is choice, informed consent, options. And it's disappointing that it's not working out that way at the college level, at the higher up level, where women could just make any choice they want around their birth, any informed choice. I think I wish it went that way. And also maybe like this movement toward free birth, I think it is an opportunity for people in registered birth work to look at why they're not being chosen, right? So rather than trying to like witch hunt the people who are filling a void, there's clearly a void. And it's many things. Like we said, it's like there aren't enough midwives. There aren't enough registered midwives. Registered midwifery is moving along toward a more obstetric model, which is not what a lot of people want or think they're getting when they get midwives. And there's a movement toward more autonomy and wanting to take responsibility for my own health and my own, and trusting my body and believing,
100%.
Like knowing that I can do it, spending time doing the work so that I'm in connection with my intuition and I know I can do it. But like, why is that? It would be an interesting study, right? To have, talking to people about why they're not choosing registered professionals. Like I can say I've had 2 births without anybody present, no registered professionals present. And the first one, I didn't really plan that. I just had it was during like reduced visits, pandemic reduced visits. So I'm having like telephone calls and like half as many visits as you usually have with midwives. And I had a really big team. I think I had 4 midwives and then 2 of them went on mat leave. So there were 6 midwives. And I basically had all my appointments with the ones who left. And then I was like, oh, I don't really want to invite strangers into my birth when I'm not like really sure what they're bringing. Like what? I'm not really sure if they do their own work, to not bring birth trauma into my home. And I'm just not sure. And I don't feel like I need from them what I would like as much as I need to know, would like to know them more, would like to be in relationship with them if they're coming into my house. So I didn't have them. And then with my next birth, I registered for midwives again. And they were like, well, you didn't call us last time. So we don't really want to have you unless you promise at like 4 weeks pregnant that you're for sure having us at your birth. And I was like, it felt coercive to me. Whereas like I actually wasn't, registering for midwifery care. I was like, I might call them if I know them this time. If, and like the ones who were on leave were back. And I was like, I definitely would have had those midwives there. But that was just my piece of not having a registered professional present. And yeah, there's definitely things that can be done around that. And I see what you're saying about harm reduction. That like, what if somebody isn't going to take all of the care you want to offer and isn't really planning to bring you to their birth, but they would like a little bit of care? That's, if you believe in registered midwifery, that's harm reduction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, there's lots of pieces there, but yeah, congratulations on your 2 physiologic births at home on your own. And I'm sad for you that the midwives wouldn't have you back, as if you'd made some choice that was scary to them. Like that,
I think
that's
so.
sad that they, wouldn't support your choices and wouldn't just like you said, ask the question, why? Like, okay, so why didn't you call us? And, for any midwives who are threatened by the free birth movement, like, well, why is this happening? And to me, it's the same grassroots movement that started the Ainamake Gaskin farm. Yeah. And it's this same grassroots movement that started the Seattle Midwifery School. It's just women who want to take birth into their own hands and they don't feel safe and they don't feel heard and they don't feel respected. And so they are calling people that they trust to respect them over people who they trust to make good medical choices. Yeah. And I think that's really worth looking at. Like, why?
Yeah, it's really speaking to, or it's like externally validating the reasons that are probably why Gloria LeMay chose not to register, and women like her were like, I won't be part of that. And so like we've gone through and we've tried out registered midwifery, and it's had lots of awesome things about it, and like accessibility for more people and all of that. But it's also had the problems that were predicted have come about. And like you said, it's bringing us back around. It's full circle around where we're like, all right, some of us don't want that. And, with those midwives that didn't want to take me back to, like, I've gone, kind of like had the full gamut of like being sad and angry and all the things about it. And I've really come around to see that they were offering a particular type of midwifery the only way they're comfortable with it. And like I had felt at the time, I'm like, they won't, I can't have midwifery. I can't have it. I'm like a victim to this process. But really, I could have had it. I just had to agree to their terms, like to what they were offering. And I was like, no, I don't want that kind. I want you to practice in a different way. But that's not who they are. And that's not where their boundaries are. And that's okay. We all have to have boundaries around what we feel comfortable with. And truly, if they don't feel comfortable with undisturbed physiologic birth, then like I guess we weren't a good fit. So I've come to see it as like that's what they're offering. I declined it, and we we didn't
Sure.
birth together.
And here you are to tell the tale.
It worked out. Yeah, that's right. Miraculously lived through the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have so much respect for that. I really do, because like I said, my early preceptors, like that's how they started. Like the women who started the Seattle Midwifery School, like they had unattended births with their friends present. And, you know, it was a time when they were just trying to empower themselves, and they were trying to learn more about their own health. And so I feel like, we're in a time of that again, where women are feeling the call to be able to really listen to their bodies and honor their bodies, and they're not necessarily being heard or reciprocated in that by a healthcare system. And more midwives are a part of that healthcare system, but and it's challenging too. Like, for example, in Kelowna now, in order to have hospital privileges, they want you to be a first assist for C-sections. So they want you to do the training to become a surgical assistant. And like, really, I have absolutely no interest in training to be like an operative assistant. Like, that's just not where my grassroots midwifery training. I don't feel that I would be comfortable or just serving people well in that kind of a role. So it's tricky, you know, where there's coercion happening from the healthcare system too for midwives to practice in a certain way, and really that takes away from like when midwives are assisting in the surgery. And I understand like the reason for the hospital asking for that. It really has to do with shortages. Like, they just don't have enough people to be attending all of these C-sections. It takes a lot of staff. You know, when you have a 35% C-section rate, that's a lot of surgeries. So they need more people to be able to assist these surgeries. But it takes away from the midwives then being able to help with things like first latch and skin to skin. Like, suddenly you're scrubbed up and, you know, a part of the surgical team in a way, and that you're really removed from your clients. And so it's just not the kind of midwifery that I want to practice. And it's just sad to see the profession going in those directions. And I am really strongly considering coming back to midwifery practice, like now that the mandate has been lifted as of July like 25th or something like that. I'm really strongly considering reinstating my registration, and I think I probably will. But with the intention for now to work in the area of lactation and postpartum care primarily.
Yeah, I think that's changed a little bit from when I was working with you at Malachite, that now there seem to be quite a few midwives just practicing, like just doing postpartum care. So you could have care with anyone and then get a midwife for postpartum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there used to be a lot of rules around, like, you had to attend a certain number of births every year, and you had to just sort of you had to do a bit of everything in your practice in order to maintain your registration. Whereas now you can register to do clinic only. You can do postpartum care only. You don't actually have to be involved in perinatal care. Which, I mean, I'm open to doing that again when my kids are a little bit older, like down the road. But just in the current times, just how political it is, and how I feel like I would feel very vulnerable if I was a registered midwife right now, in like just not being able to have control over my life, not to have full control of my life. So that's where, like the idea of just doing clinic and doing lactation support is really attractive. But yeah. But I've also become really obsessed with lactation and breastfeeding. So it's not that I would be doing it as a default because I don't want to be involved in birth. It's just like I'm actually completely obsessed with lactation and breastfeeding right now, and really want to serve that world. So
I wanted to speak to that a little bit, and maybe you have to come back and we have to do like a whole episode on it. But you really moved into the lactation consultant world.
yes.
And like supporting postpartum, like it looks like, am I getting this right? Like you have like postpartum groups going on and lots of breastfeeding supports, and
I do.
That's so awesome for Kelowna. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It started in a very grassroots way. Like I was sharing that I was receiving all these phone calls from women who were asking me to attend their births. I was also receiving a lot of phone calls from moms who were having challenges with breastfeeding and they weren't sure who to call or what to do because the postpartum nurses weren't doing home visits anymore. And a lot of the breastfeeding groups and supports had shut down. And I mean, I have had my own share of challenges with breastfeeding with my first. And so it was absolutely critical for me to receive some breastfeeding support. And it was actually the support that I received within a group, like a breastfeeding group. It was called the Breastfeeding Cafe at the time.
Oh, yeah. I love that cafe.
I know, it was awesome.
I was wishing that really existed here when I was postpartum.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so Chantel, who used to run the Breastfeeding Cafe, that all shut down with the lockdowns. But I kind of stole her and said, "Hey, Chantel, do you want to start up a new thing with me? I really want to start teaching breastfeeding classes because I see that as a really big gap right now. It's just like breastfeeding education and having people have some preparation beforehand." So I said, "Hey, do you want to start teaching classes and then doing these monthly community breastfeeding circles, we call them now, instead of the Breastfeeding Cafe?" But it's essentially just a new rendition of the old Breastfeeding Cafe. And yeah, so I was receiving all these calls from moms and it just felt like, okay, this is a real gap in our community right now. Like moms are at home alone. And I also had my own 2 kids at home. My oldest son was 4 and my youngest was like 11 months when we went into lockdown. So I got it. I was like, oh my God, where's my village? I'm so lonely. Like I am just barely keeping my head above water with, all the things there is to do in a day for these little people. And, I was hearing from all these moms who were struggling. And so it was like, eventually I started hosting some circles at my house very quietly because we weren't really supposed to be gathering at that time, but we were all just so lonely. We were kind of desperate. We were like, we need to have some connection. And then that evolved into they're called the Crunchy Mama Circles that I lead now. So I lead these circles for moms. Usually the babies are kind of like 1 month to 12 months in the groups. And it's just exploring different topics in motherhood. So things like matrescence and postpartum mental health. Next week, we're talking about astrology. So it's also just some random topics.
Is it drop-in or do you have like a regular group coming?
It's a bit of both. Most people sign up for the whole series, but I do have some people dropping in. But yeah, it's been popular. It's neat to see. Like the groups have done well. Like people have really resonated with them. And then but the breastfeeding education and postpartum breastfeeding support is also where it's like an excuse to, well, I mean, I love it and it's a passion for me to do these Crunchy Mama circles, but it's also an excuse to just connect with a bunch of breastfeeding, lactating mamas and, get the information out there. And yeah, because I'm finding it's still a barrier even to educate people that they need breastfeeding education before they have their babies. It's kind of, people don't know what they don't know. And I find that there's often like in birth education classes, childbirth education classes, there's often like a little breastfeeding component, which is great and so much better than nothing. But our breastfeeding class is really comprehensive and really focused around helping people to avoid some of those early challenges. Like you were saying, how your nipples had gotten really damaged with both of your kids. So that's really part of our goal, is to help people avoid nipple damage, nipple pain, or to know like, hey, I'm getting damage here. This isn't right. Something's wrong. Like so the quicker that they reach out for support, the faster that we can get them out of that like rabbit hole of nipple damage, which can really escalate quickly. And that's what happened to me. Like I had really bad nipple damage too, and really, really engorged breasts. And yeah, so it was absolutely essential to get some support when I did, because I feel like I would have developed some infection.
Yeah.
So it's really just trying to share the information to as many pregnant families and expecting families that I can, to that like it's worthwhile investing in some breastfeeding education beforehand.
For the knowledge and for the community, I think around it, like community support around parenting, like the circles you were saying you were offering. I remember seeking that when I was postpartum with Garrett, it's a long time ago. And all I could find were the health unit ran these clinics, like these little like mom circle kind of things, but
baby
they were
talk?
Like, baby
did
talk.
They call it baby talk?
They did call it baby talk. And like some of them were cool. Like one was baby sign language, I remember, but a lot of them were run more by like pharmaceutical companies to get you to try all of their juicy bits for babies. Yeah. But I was like, I just needed to, I didn't know anybody, and none of my friends had babies, and I just wanted to be around other people with babies and see like how they were doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's such a gap. And then I also see with breastfeeding, there's a perception that's accurate that it's natural, right? So, but that doesn't mean like it's also a learned skill. And there's two of you learning the skill together. You just met each other, you know, and in that way I can see how it's also different with every baby, because it's a new human now. Like, you know how to do it. You know how it worked with the other baby. This baby has a different mouth and like a different personality. And breastfeeding support. So great. So recommended.
Yeah, it's amazing, like how even between my two boys, like they are such different feeders, and it's so different with every baby. But really, it's the first baby, you know, where you want to have the most information. It's just like childbirth education classes. It's like a lot of second, third time parents aren't going to go back and take childbirth education classes again. But for first time parents, it can be so valuable just to have the information and to know kind of like, okay, this is what early labor is like, and these are some things that can support me through early labor. Oh, okay, and transition is going to be pretty intense, but it doesn't last as long. So once I get to that point, I can know that I've gotten to like the maximum. And just like that information, I feel like it might not change how things go, but it helps you to relax into the experience.
Normalizes it, because otherwise like birth can feel like something really bad is happening. Like you're dying and you're sick and it's not going well. Because it doesn't, like in what other context would it be like you're throwing up and it's fine, don't worry about it. Like that's a real bad time. Gotta fix it.
Exactly. Or like you're having to just like moan and groan and yell to get through pain, but it's normal and it's good, and it's like, you know, exactly
that's the value of the wise woman there, to be like, yes, you're doing it.
Exactly.
This looks great.
So that information beforehand is really valuable. And I find that with lactation too. You know, it's really valuable to know that for the first few days, you're not going to have a full volume of milk. You'll just have this little bit of colostrum. And on the second day, your baby might act like they're super, super hungry, and they might act like they're desperate for a big volume of milk, but that's nature's way to like get that baby to feed as often as possible to stimulate your body to get your milk volume coming in. And by giving a bottle on that second day, you can really interfere with that natural process of like, you have this hungry baby who wants to feed all the time. Suddenly you've given a bottle, you have this full baby who's not stimulating your breast. And then, you can set yourself up for long-term supply challenges, right? Like just from that second day. So, yeah, like I'm seeing that a lot, like just supply challenges, and a lot of people are like, oh, okay, the products, right? They want the breastfeeding teas and the cookies and the pumps even. And it's like, well, no, just starting with feeding early, feeding often, and making sure. And that's, there are medical reasons to supplement, and I don't want to ever shame anyone for that. But whenever possible, to have a baby feeding at the breast, primarily, exclusively, skin to skin, like really taking advantage of that time, you're going to set yourself up for a much better long-term milk volume.
Yeah.
So,
the other advantage I see here for the breastfeeding education, like there's all the information, which is especially supportive your first time around. But also that piece of like coming into community for breastfeeding. Like I learned so much. I thought about this a lot when I had my second baby. So I had like the first baby I had doctors. I didn't have midwives. I didn't have a lot of support, no friends with babies. And then years later went and worked at Malachite Midwives and worked with all these midwives, all of whom were having babies at that time. Like everybody was having babies for the 2 years I was there. And I would watch midwives just like parent their babies and like be mothers and midwives at the same time. And even just watching like how the positions in which you can breastfeed. Like I only breastfed my baby in like how you see people in movies, like lying on my arm, and I would like have to like prop up with pillows. And like there's just like a way it had to be done. And I didn't ever try any other way for the whole like 3-year breastfeeding journey. And then I would watch midwives parent and breastfeed. And when I came around to having my next baby, I knew of all these other ways that were possible, like sitting up, right? Or with a baby sitting up, like even the fresh little newborn baby, and how much more supportive that is to their whole physiology and to their reflexes and to breastfeeding and good latch that I just didn't know was possible before. And that was just by watching wise women do their thing, which would have been part of our lives way back when, right? Like we wouldn't have gone to births for the first time in our own birth or seen breastfeeding the first time with your own baby or in a movie. You'd be with your aunties and your mom and all the village people, and it would just be part of our feminine lexicon that we know how to do that. And that's how it comes back. So we get into circle, we get into connection and community with other women.
Yeah. 100%. I have a friend who grew up in Iran, and she grew up in a Muslim culture. She is actually Baha'i, but it was a very Muslim culture, obviously. And she but she said that breastfeeding was so normal. Like she saw everybody breastfeeding all the time. And it was just such an important part of the feminine culture the feminine Persian culture that she grew up in. It was a really, really important part. And she also said that it was so much more normal for okay, like for her cousins, for example, like she would see her mom like breastfeed her baby cousins, when her auntie would like have to go out and run some errands or be out for a little while. Her mom would have no problem with just being like, oh, you're hungry, baby? Like, here you go. I'm going to latch you and feed you. So I feel like in cultures where breastfeeding and lactation are more just normalized, and where they didn't go through the like bottle feeding formula phase of like the 2 generations or so of like formula feeding and bottle feeding, it's so much more normal for moms to breastfeed each other's babies, like, and even friends to share milk. And so I feel like that's really interesting too, because potentially moms wouldn't struggle with low supply as much because they would be able to access milk from their friends and there wouldn't be so much of a stigma against like accessing other people's breast milk. So yeah, I just thought that was a really interesting piece too around.
Yeah, just think how that would be supportive to mothering. like whatever
Yeah.
your thoughts are about sharing milk with other people, but actually the practicality of not being the only person who can satisfy your child. And
Yeah.
seeing it happen with so many people. I'm a pretty private person. Like my inclination is to cover up and go somewhere else. And I'm
Mhm.
not sure how much that is related to like cultural shame around breastfeeding and how much of it is that I'm just like introverted and I like to be by myself. There's some mix there, but I'm like quite conscious now on this third baby breastfeeding that I'm like, nope, it's happening where I'm sitting. It's happening without a
Mhm.
blanket. And I'm like, and it's for
Mhm.
all of you. You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Well, you have all these kids in your home now that
Mhm.
you are educating and like allowing to see this very beautiful natural process. So, yeah, good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's how we start the next generation.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's a big part of my message too, is getting people out of that being stuck in cross cradle
Mhm.
position, which is actually mimicking bottle feeding in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like if you
totally.
think about how you like bottle feed a baby, like holding them in that cross cradle position, you're essentially just like making your boob into like a bottle feeding position, where
Yes.
in cultures again where breastfeeding has been the norm through the last century, they often will, you see so many more laid back breastfeeding positions, sideline
Yes.
breastfeedings, like moms just like laying back. And then lo and behold, physiologically you have less nipple damage, less
Yeah.
pain. Babies can get a much deeper latch, tend to breastfeed for a longer period of time in those positions. It's just so much more comfortable in moms' bodies because they can
Yeah.
relax and rest, like
And
instead
you
of
can actually just
imagine.
sleep, right? Like while
Yeah,
your baby's
yeah,
beside you breastfeeding. Do you know that
yeah.
documentary called We Are Mammals? Have you
Yes.
seen that
Yeah,
one? I
yeah.
love that.
Love it.
My doula sent that to me when I was
Mm-hmm.
pregnant with Izzy. And I was like, oh, like I've been a doula for 10 years. Like I don't need
Mm-hmm.
breastfeeding support. I know all the things. And that one was so like that was really profound to me. All the things
I'm
I learned
pretty
in
sure
there.
that she's like a midwife, Elsie, who made that movie, and I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure she's Persian as well.
Yeah, I think she is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was really good, really normalizing and just bringing about how those, yeah, it's odd in our culture that that's not intuitive. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me, how can people find you and contact you and work with you?
Yeah, thank you. So I have an Instagram account, the Mother Tree Collective, where I tend to announce all of my different groups and classes. People can check out my website, themothertree.ca, where there's an updated list of like breastfeeding education classes, the Crunchy Mama groups, the breastfeeding circle, community breastfeeding circle. I'm also doing right now, it's called the Postpartum Resilience series. It's all around
Mm.
mental health. And I'm doing it with a clinical counselor. And that group sold out really quickly when we started advertising it. So it just speaks again for like
Mm-hmm.
the need for this. But it's been really cool. It's the first time we're doing this mental health series, but I feel like we'll definitely run it again because it's been
Yeah.
popular. Yeah, and then I also do like home visits or virtual breastfeeding support for people who are challenged or having challenges, not sure who to call. I also do just like free 15-minute phone consultations if people are wanting to explore like some simple challenges or whether or not they
Mm-hmm.
want to access a full breastfeeding consultation kind of thing. So
Great.
yeah, so the mothertree.ca is kind of the main place, or my Instagram. Yeah,
Got it.
those
Okay.
are the main places.
I will put that in the show notes so people can find you. And maybe
Okay,
we have to
perfect. Thank you.
arrange a longer breastfeeding conversation sometime. Yeah.
Yes, I would love to. I call myself a breastfeeding nerd, and
Yeah.
I just own that title. So I am happy to talk for any length of time about lactation anytime.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to do it.
Okay,
Okay, thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. This has been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talk to you again soon.
Thanks for listening, friends. You can find Kaley's new book, The Comfortable Breastfeeding Guide, on her website or on sale right now via Kindle. Kaley is located in Kelowna, British Columbia, and hosts group classes and supports individual families in the area. You can find details on how to contact her in the show notes or head to her website, Mother Tree Collective. You can also find her on Instagram at Mother Tree Collective. You can find me on Instagram at birth.throughtheveil. Message me anytime. I love to continue the conversation after the recording finishes. You can financially support this little production via e-transfer or through PayPal. Details are in the show notes, or by liking, rating, and reviewing this podcast on whatever platform you listen on. And of course, share these stories far and wide.